Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 12 of the Renovation and Outdoor Living Show, brought to you by Refresh and Zones, brought to you from this glamorous living room in the heart of Auckland. Hey, good to see you all, and as hopefully you're getting used to this concept, is that what I like is for you to be able to give us a few comments, say hello, say whatever you like in the comments page. We can read some of them out, particularly when you have questions for our experts. We've got two experts coming up on the show. You may also have questions about last episode on Friday. If you remember, we were talking about automation, everything automation. Well, we started outdoors when we were talking about irrigation systems for the garden, so you could sit on the beach in Fiji and switch your sprinklers on. And then we were also talking about, oh, by the way, I've just been on this episode 11. Sorry about that. You haven't missed one. Also, we were talking about home automation inside the house as well. Everything from hi, Morgan and Stone saying, hi, guys, you're first to make a comment. Nice to see you. You get a special prize, which is a wave. We were talking about home automation inside the house, from blinds to heating to cooling to fireplaces to lighting to music to everything and anything, and also all the timers on things like security systems and your washing machines and that sort of thing. We have an automation system in our home. We tried it out at the weekend. It's called The Children. Doesn't work very well, but it was very impressive on Sunday for Mother's Day. Lunch and dinner was cooked. The hoovering was done. The clothes were put away. The massage function didn't work very well. The breakfast function completely failed on us, but Mum was pretty pleased with the automation all the same, although it be just for the one day of the year. So I hope everyone else enjoyed their Mother's Day as well, particularly the pair of you who were on a brand new mattress, which we gave away last week from Ecosa. We've got another cool prize coming up today. I'll tell you about in a few minutes' time. The theme today is growth outside. And we want to start by talking about how to grow organic. Now, Jason Clark is a landscaping specialist. He runs Zones Landscaping in the Whangarei region, north of Auckland. He runs it with his wife, Anissa. Here they are. They've got that whole sort of northern area. It's fair to say for Jason and Anissa that organics are their specialities. Now, Jason's spent over 20 years in owning and operating an organic cropping operation. This included a 16-hectare certified organic property in Waiuku, south of Auckland. He owned the Sunset Coast Organics Limited company. It was a cropping business that specialized in growing a variety of organic crops and basically adopting sustainable land management practices. A bit of a change, though. Jason, nice to see you. You've moved from the deep south of Auckland to the far north of Auckland to Whangarei. Why give up the 16 hectares and this big commercial organics business for a life by the beach? Or have I just answered the question?
We thoroughly enjoyed all those years working on our family farm, raising a young family and working through the industry, knowing nothing at the beginning because I've got an engineering background. So we learned from the School of Hard Knocks. It was a huge journey. We felt we had reached a point in our life where we needed a change. We're yearning for a change. We love our scuba diving. We've been all through the Coromandel Peninsula diving, and we ventured up north to the great Pornites Islands. We ended up in Tutakaka, Matapori now, where we are, and we just fell in love with it. So we had a big change in direction, and we joined in with Zones. I've always had an affinity with the land and wanted to get into landscaping right at the very beginning. So we feel like we've come full circle and living in paradise in beautiful Northland.
Yeah, you want to actually be able to see your diving spots from the living room rather than dream of them in Waiuku. Hey, so as you just mentioned, so you're running a Zones franchise now. Do you use? I mean, I presume you do. You use your organics background in what you're doing, or is designing and building your smaller domestic spaces completely different from the commercial game?
Definitely. When we think about organics, anything we grow, large or small scale, it's all relative. It's got the same foundation, the same building blocks. We're just got to think a little differently, maybe have some paradigm shifts on how we approach things, but it's the same principle. So, for example, where we live now, we're right up in the bush, and we don't have good growing land, being surrounded by native bush now. So we're now experimenting with growing in container pots and garden raised beds on a smaller scale. So you can get really creative with that, and it's exciting and it's fun.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because have you noticed a real change to organic practices, to awareness? I mean, in 20 years, you must have been quite cutting edge at the time when you started on your lifestyle block down south. But nowadays, when you're going to talk to people about projects, or you're just chatting to people in the community, is there that real awareness that actually organics sort of should take quite a high priority in planning?
Yeah, definitely. How we produce our food and why we eat. We eat food to charge our bodies. We want good nutrient food. So therefore it comes down to soil prep, and and everything we do within that. So with the public awareness, and especially in the position we're now with the COVID, I think most people would be aware. If you were to go down to your local nursery, I know I was down Mitre 10 trying to get some seedlings for clients and even ourselves, and everything was bare. It was just unreal, So with that, it's created awareness of gardening, which for us is exciting, being able to share that with others, and this knowledge, like sitting here today.
See, it's interesting. We often, and we've spoken to a couple of other zones franchises, and they're very much urban spaces they're looking at, I think, and it's often about the outdoor living, the pool, maybe the lawn if there's enough space. But it's interesting seeing the plans which are up on the screen at the moment. So your direction is saying, hold on, guys, why not think about all the opportunities? You don't need much space, and you don't need great soil if you plan it properly.
Certainly. You can, as you can see from those pictures showing at the moment, depending on your environment where you currently live, you can use materials that are going to complement your property. If you've got a smaller space like how we have at the moment, you can come right down to using multiple pots, or using the material shown on that slide there. And you can really think outside the box in terms of where things are placed. Keep your herbs around the kitchen so they're close, they're handy. If you've got some shrubs with gaps and open space there, you can pop in edible flowers, which will then attract beneficial insects, which in turn is going to help keep all your garden plants healthy, because that's a haven for them. It's a home. This is where the edible flowers, particularly your calendulas, your nasturtiums, your borage, they're fantastic. They add a touch of colour, and they have all these added benefits. It's great.
So is this all part of what is termed now, and it's a new term, isn't it, edible landscaping?
Yeah, for sure. So you can mix things up depending on your property, rather than just the old days. Some people may have had a perception of, hey, we've got a few square meters in the back corner of our property, let's shove a vegetable garden in there, rather than tuck it around the corner sight unseen, because it can get a bit unruly. You can now interplant throughout your whole property. You can get really creative, and with the help of zone specialists, we can put you in the right direction of how you can do that.
Yeah, nice sales pitch there at the end. But you're right there, because particularly the picture you showed us early on, where you can create the pathways through the little sort of boxed off beds and that sort of thing, was a really good example of that sort of edible landscape, I guess. There you go. There's a good example there in the top right there, and bottom right. There we go. That's what I was talking about. Those raised beds there with the pathways through. It's so interesting, isn't it? And look, I wish you the very best of luck with it as well, Jason. And as you just pointed out, if anyone wants to have a chat with Jason and Anna about what they're doing, they're in the Whangarei. It's quite a wide area around there, but give zones a ring anyway. Fantastic idea, Jason. Good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. I'll let you get back to the diving. Are you allowed to dive?
Thanks.
I think you are allowed to go diving now. Now, talking of outdoor spaces, this is the perfect time to announce our next giveaway. Now, we've spoke to our friends at Outdoor a few weeks ago, and they have given us to give to you a Weber barbecue, the king of barbecues. This is the baby barbecue you can chuck in the car and take camping and that sort of thing. In fact, you can put it anywhere you like. That we're going to give away. This is the Q1000 barbecue by Weber, and trust me, I'm not paid to sell Webers. I got one sitting in the garden outside, and it's never been easier to be able to barbecue. So if you haven't got a Weber, you haven't lived. So all you need to do to enter is, there you go, comment below on what your next outdoor project is. Doesn't matter when you're doing it, but it'd be interesting to know what you're planning, and then we'll chuck you in the draw and pull out one of you to win that Weber Baby Barbecue. So one of the big questions when we're planning an overhaul of the garden: go real or artificial? Do you want to spend your Sunday mornings cutting the grass and then enjoying that smell of the fresh cut grass afterwards? Or do you just want to blow the leaves off your artificial lawn and be done with it and know that it's always going to look green year round? Well, to help us with this, we're going to have a chat now to Phil Lewis. Now, Phil Lewis is the managing director of the Team Turf head office in Auckland. Phil's been in the artificial turf industry since 2002, so 18 years of experience here, involved in small projects through to large sporting facility constructions. He's done it throughout Asia and the South Pacific, from design all the way through to hands-on site installation. So Phil has, to say the least, extensive knowledge in all areas of artificial turf. Phil, good to see you today. Thank you very much indeed for giving us some time. Well, I hope
no problem,
you popped up. Hey, I was interested when I was reading, when I was stalking you, that your background academically was in sports science, and you specialized in athletes. Is it physiology and biomechanics? So I thought, what's the connection there with artificial turf? And actually, is there actually a connection there in the fact you were looking at what people are playing on and running on? Does it have nothing to do with it?
No, absolutely. It was a nice kind of link in the end. When I left university, I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do, and I did a commerce degree in marketing and a sports science degree in biomechanics. And then after 4 years in the wine industry, I ended up in the artificial turf industry, which in the end, some of that knowledge from the sports science side of things links into, in particular around testing for high-level sports services like for FIFA or for FIH or for World Rugby. They're quite strict now on fall heights and torque and torsion, other technical terms when it comes to specific sports surfaces at the highest level. So some of that knowledge has come into play, which is quite nice in the end.
Yeah, because we're not talking, I mean, for us, we're going to be talking very much about sort of home projects here. But what you're talking about is when you're talking about the spring and the density and all these scientific parts of it. I mean, the artificial turf industry in New Zealand, I mean, it must be huge now. And I'm now talking beyond just sports ground installations.
Yeah, look, the growth in artificial turf since early 2000s has been exponential, you would say, from the move into football surfaces for American football, for soccer and rugby all over the world in the kind of 2000, and then between 2010 and now has been huge, and they're massive areas. And in the US, there's over 1,000 of these fields being put in every year by one company alone. So, the square meterage is just mind-boggling between Europe and the US. But we're not so big here on the bigger projects here because we don't really have the funding to fund some of the bigger fields. But that's flowed through from the sports surfaces, and now in the last 5 years we've had exponential growth in landscaping in your backyard in the New Zealand sector.
What is the driver there? Is it because we're growing lazier? Is it because they look better? Is it because they're cheaper? I mean, talk to me about the benefits of putting artificial turf down rather than planting or seeding a lawn or rolling out.
I think the first 2 points are on the money. We're definitely looking for more time to relax and do our own things on the weekends rather than mow your lawn. So straight away, that's at the top of the list. But secondly, is looking after your lawn. And in Auckland, with our climate, you just can't get rid of the weeds, and they just keep coming through no matter how well you look after it. So in the end, after a year or two of trying, most people give up and then go artificial. And everyone that goes artificial, they never go back, and it sells itself. They love it. They can't get enough of it. And next thing, their neighbours got it and their best friends have got it, and it kind of keeps exponentially growing from there.
So is it almost like a sort of philosophical discussion that people have over real or art? Is it like the Christmas tree argument? Is that, I mean, we use an artificial Christmas tree each year because it's so bloody easy and I can chuck it back in the roof, but I still battle the weeds outside because it's grass and I must.
Yeah. I think that's gone now in our market. For the last 2 years at the Auckland Home Show, people have been interested in the type of the product and the colours that it comes in and how much it costs. Whereas prior to that, it was, why should I go to artificial? So now it's generally accepted that artificial is is a good option, and people have accepted that, and they've got away from the fact that it's this really cheap looking product of the yesteryear of 10 to 15 years ago, and now we have these absolutely amazing products, lots of different shades of different colours of green and lengths and composition of yarns. So people have accepted it. It's just what product they want now when it comes to the decision-making process.
I love this. I mean, look at these options which we've got up on the screen here. Some are cool, even looks as though it's got just a hint of weed in it to give it a bit of authenticity. But I get the point is that now, of course, it doesn't all look like that that sort of initial product which we sort of coming up trims around commercial buildings. What about the duration?
Oh, look, the product should last between 8 and 15 years. And I use an example of like it's in your carpet, like your carpet at home and the high wear areas and your doorways, etc. You're going to get wear and flattening of the yarn fibres, and so you can't get away from that. And like me with my kids in the backyard, if I'm playing cricket and soccer in the same spot all the time, then it does flatten off and it will wear in those areas. So you can spruce it up and replace it after 8 years if it's looking a bit flat, but it will still be there for 20 years. I mean, it's UV stabilised and guaranteed for 8 years. So once it gets past a couple of years, you can guarantee that it will last the distance. It's just if you're happy with the look of it really and how it's wearing, it will last 15 to 20 years easily.
And do you have to do much with it in that time?
No, once the sand layer goes into the fibres, it's there permanently. You don't have to top it up. Look, as you mentioned in your intro, you just have to blow it off and keep the organic matter off it. Leaves and the like that will end up blowing on it, and I do that roughly every 3 to 4 weeks, and blow it into the corner and sweep it up, and it's done and dusted and looks great for another 3 or 4 weeks. So it's relatively maintenance free. It's not no maintenance. You can get moss and algae growing if you got an area up against the house or a fence line that's shaded in the winter time for most of the winter months, then you may get some moss and algae growth which you can spray and get rid of. So.
Or Phil, do you actually, let's be honest here, where some of us spend our entire lives trying to get rid of the bloody weeds, do you actually go around on your hands with a little pot, picking out all the tiny little bits of anything to keep it absolutely perfect? Or is it's genuinely you just get the blower on there?
Yeah, I just get the blower. You do get growth, and it doesn't come from underneath the turf. It actually grows in the sand layer that's in the turf. So, and the weeds are very easy to pull out. So you just, you can walk around and weed your lawn in 5 minutes, and it'll be done and dusted for another 4 weeks. But it is as low maintenance as you can get in your backyard.
Well, you've got Sadie's attention here. She entered the competition. A new deck was going to be her next outdoor project. Now she's gone to the artificial grass out the front. She'll probably get 2 entries to the competition now for the Weber barbecue. A quick question here. You must get this quite a lot. Is about pets. Do they damage the turf? Do they use the turf in the summer? Does a dog still use the turf as his toilet in the morning? Tell me about how pets come into it. Oh, look at those cute pictures.
Well, that's our marketing manager, Lara. That's her dog on the left-hand side there. She took that. We did a little lockdown video of our kids in the backyard, and she used that to finish off, which is a nice touch. Look, the pets can pee and poo on the turf, and they use it 12 months of the year. And there is a video on our website where you can go and look at some specific areas around that. But look, the dogs and cats and pets love it, and it's they won't damage it, they won't stain it. And there are some sprays and the like at certain times of the year that can get rid of some. You can get in the hotter months some urine smell, and there are sprays that can help to assist to get rid of that. But it's not a complaint that we get regularly. But it can, if you haven't had rain for 4 or 5 weeks, it can potentially be a small problem.
Yep. Your marketing man had a lot of fun with the camera outside, getting those photos, getting the dog to smile. Very quickly before we finish up, cost. I noticed that there's obviously still quite a lot of ground preparation. We saw in one of the earlier slides, it's obviously still got that sort of sand base. It's probably not quite as nearly as much as a turf preparation. But so what about the cost of putting down per square? Do you do it by the per square meter cost?
We do by the square meter. So it can be anywhere from $110 up to $150 a square meter, and that comes down to the access into the area. And a lot of areas are limited access, wheelbarrow only into your backyard or through your house in some cases. So and it depends on the size of the area. So you might be 110 to 120 plus GST per square meter for a larger area. That might be 50 to 100 square meters with good access, or you might be 140 to 150 a square meter if you were limited access and only 10 or 15 square meters.
Yep. And so how does that compare to ready roll turf or something?
Oh, look, I believe, I don't know the exact figures on Ready Lawn, but I would have thought Ready Lawn, I think is roughly between $60 and $80 a square metre supplied and installed. Don't quote me on that, but obviously that's not our game.
Yeah, not. I love the picture we've just put up of your backyard there, the golf course by the waterways.
I wish that was my backyard, Rawdon.
Yeah. Would be nice, wouldn't it? Phil, thanks very much for your time. Really good to have a chat about that. That is Phil Lewis from Team Turf telling us all we need to know about artificial turf, and you can get hold of Phil on the Team Turf website. Good to see you, Phil. Now,
thanks,
we'll see you soon. As we head towards level 2 now, if you're watching from overseas, if you're watching from Australia or the US, or if you're up and watching from the UK, we're heading into level 2. Well, we think probably later this week. My money will be on 11:59 p.m. Thursday night that they will put us into level 2, because it'll allow everyone to go out for the weekend. Because judging by last weekend, everyone's going to go out anyway this weekend. So if the government's getting it right, we had 0 cases today, that they will put level 2 in Thursday night for the weekend. So as we head towards level 2, which is basically life back to normal without large gatherings, international travel and bars, well, it's a good time to look at this. This is a recently released report which was put together by NZME and Dentsu, and it was put together and it was into spending. Now, this was a 12-week online survey to identify future consumer needs and behaviours emerging, basically how we changed our thoughts during this COVID time looking ahead. Now, as you'll see here, this is really interesting. Which items will you likely spend more money on and less money on once things return to normal? In fact, it makes complete logical sense, because we're going to spend less money, 28% of us say, on luxury goods, probably because we're going to be able to afford them, 29% on travel, because there just won't be much, except domestically, and 27% on dining out. Again, it's an unnecessary expense. But the interesting one for all of us who enjoy renovations and landscaping projects is 22%. The one thing they'll spend more money on is home improvement, because we spent so long in our houses going, God, it'd be good to do that. It'd be good to do that. And also about adding that value to the capital value to our homes as well. I'll give you a few more stats, though, to leave you on. A quarter of us, this is ridiculous, a quarter of us intend to stockpile more food when this is over. So 1 in 4 people is going to, when you're allowed out, going to go to the supermarket and start stockpiling food for what? The next pandemic. Unbelievable. 41% of us are enjoying our homes more now. 56% say it's easy to live without bars and clubs. 50% say it's easy to live without fast food. 48% of us are happy not having live sport. That's an interesting one. And 44% say they don't need cinemas or restaurants. So large numbers, not vast majority, but large numbers saying they don't need all of those things. And finally, 59% say they see the value in their partners having time to themselves, which is a great statistic. So 6 out of 10 of us now can understand why our partners might want time to themselves. But 76% of us want time away from our loved ones after lockdown. 3 out of 4 of us just want a little bit of space to ourselves. Anyway, have a great few days. We'll speak to you again on Friday when we'll know much more about level 2 as far as New Zealand's concerned. Do remember to enter the competition for the barbecue. And if you want any advice on renovation or landscaping plans, we'll give the numbers up in a moment. Or you can still download a free Renovate handbook. Again, get hold of the team and they'll organise one for you. We'll see you Friday. Bye-bye.